I was somebody who obviously was very nervous and wanted to like live in the bubble of comfort. But as soon as I got out here, I didn't know a single soul. I didn't know what the real estate world was even about. Like it was really up to myself to really figure it out and build a name for myself. And I think that's where I've received the respect that I've gotten from my company and even like locals around here too, because I kind of like put my head down and was just like, all right, we're gonna fucking do this.
Pull up a chair. You're sitting at the table with Power Haus women, the podcast where bold women in business come to connect, collaborate, and build something bigger than themselves.
We always say, if you're fortunate to have a seat at the table, pull up 3 more. That's exactly what we're doing here.
This isn't just a conversation, it's a movement. We're creating space at the table for conversations that matter. The ones that challenge you, push you, and remind you that you do not have to do this alone.
Every episode, we're talking growth, success, and the real, unfiltered truths of entrepreneurship. No gatekeeping.
No fluff, just the perspective and community that you need to thrive. So if you're ready to surround yourself with women who get it, you're in the right place and there is already a seat with your name on it. What's up, Power Houses? Welcome back to another episode of At the Table with Power Haus Women.
Today, we're pulling up a chair for our girl and fellow co-founder, Kelsey O'Connor, Hamptons realtor, fashion industry alum, personal stylist, and a Serhant agent featured on Netflix's Owning Manhattan, and of course, a co-founder of Power Haus Women. Welcome to the table as a guest.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. I'm happy to be here. It's weird being on the other side, but it's exciting at the same time because I will say this is the first time I'm really sharing my story on any podcast, and it only made sense to do it here. So I'm really excited to get into it.
Yeah, we're excited to dive deeper because I feel like I'm sure we'll hear new little things that we don't know about you, even though we know so much.
No, 100%. I feel like I have an extensive story, and I know my story is not ending yet, but there's a lot that goes into why I got into what I got into. And so I'm excited to dive into that.
Amazing. Okay, so then let's like rewind completely. The beginning of your journey. Tell us kind of like take us back to the beginning. I guess, I don't know if you want to start college, post-grad, and then kind of tell us like how everything developed to where you are now.
Sure. So, oh gosh, where do I even start? Well, on the fashion side of things, I think I developed a love for fashion when I was 5 or 6 years old. And this is a story my mom always reminds me of, but she would put me in dresses and I would twirl. And when I twirled, if it didn't like poof out the right way and the way that I wanted it to, I would make her change my dress. So that I think was the start of my mom being like, okay, yep, this girl is into fashion and she likes clothes. From there, I'm Catholic, so my parents put my sister and I in a Catholic school the majority of our life. I went to a Catholic school from preschool to senior year of high school. And so I wore uniforms. And elementary school was different, but in high school, I had a choice of 3 different skirts, 3 different color shirts, 3 different color sweaters, and that was it. And so for me, that was also where I think I developed my love for fashion even more because I wasn't really able to express myself through my clothing like I do now. I was able to kind of change up the colors with the uniform, but it just wasn't the same. And so I remember we could wear whatever socks we wanted, and those were the days of the Juicy Couture age. And so I would wear my Juicy Couture, like knee-high socks. I had like a different pair for every day. And we could only wear a certain type of shoe. Like the shoe had to have a back on them. And it's really funny because my sister and I joke about it till this day because the Birkenstocks slides are back in style. But that's what I used to wear with my uniform to school. And even though it wasn't allowed, I was in detention more often than not because of that. But like I stayed true to myself and I was like, listen, you're making me wear a uniform and I want to wear it the way that I want to wear it.
Wait, Kel,
So
pause really quick. I just have to relate to you so much because I would get in trouble all the time for my outfits. That's so funny. And I didn't go to like a uniform school or anything, but that's so funny. Like a little
yeah,
thing about both of us that we both got in trouble for our outfits.
I like
I
to
know
take
it's so
any
funny.
sort of like clothing, like dress code. I remember in high school, I went to a farm school and they like banned leggings. I think I was a sophomore. They banned leggings, like yoga pants, flare, like the Victoria's Secret fold over ones. And then the next day, after they sent the memo out, every single boy in my grade, which mind you, there weren't a lot because it was like 5 girls to every boy, they all showed up wearing leggings, like in protest.
Men, boy.
Every single guy. There was probably at least like
Oh,
120.
like in protest for the
Yeah.
girls.
They all wore like tight like,
Ew. Let's not.
leggings. So it was a spectacle. It was insane.
Ew. If I ever
That's
see a
weird.
man in leggings,
Enough for what you want to wear. Like you have to.
no, that's so funny. But if I ever saw a man in leggings, please.
No, it was definitely
Never.
a spectacle. But they got their point across and we
Yeah.
kept leggings.
Wow, that's interesting. Right.
Yeah,
So
well,
back to your Catholic school days, you were getting in trouble for your outfits.
yes, I was wearing my skirt a little too short. I was wearing my shirt untucked the way I wanted to wear it. I was wearing shoes that I wasn't really supposed to be wearing. And so, yeah, that I was basically in detention for that. And then, by my senior year, they forced leggings underneath the skirts, which was like a big no-no for me. I was like, oh my God, this could not be any uglier. But I guess I get what I deserve. So that was high school. And then college was really like the first time I was able to really express myself through clothes because obviously I wasn't in uniforms anymore. And I worked for Michael Kors. That was when Michael Kors was
Wait,
like
I
the
worked
big
for
hot
Michael
thing.
Kors.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I worked like in the retail store, but like that's so weird.
At the Province Place Mall?
No, like when I would come home for like the holidays and stuff, I'd work at the one like by me in Jersey.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So
Yeah, that was like
weird.
the age of Michael Kors. So I worked for them and I got like free wardrobe, free shoes, which was like incredible. And then from there, I think that's just how I knew I wanted to go into fashion. I went to school in Rhode Island for event management, and my dream job was to basically work for the company who puts on New York Fashion Week. So I wanted to tie in the fashion with the events, and that was it. And I think that's what made me want to go to New York City. So that kind of transitions into like how I ended up in New York. My first job was in event management. It wasn't in fashion right away. I worked for a big hospitality company called Be Our Guest Hospitality. It's no longer a thing anymore, or it was acquired, but their restaurants, and for those who are listening who are in New York City, was like Dos Caminos, Bluefin. There were a few others. I honestly can't remember because it was so long ago, but I really got to learn the ins and outs of obviously New York City, hospitality. I was an event manager. And then I just knew I wanted more. I wanted to be in the fashion world. And that's when I transitioned into my next job, which was in the fashion world. But it was actually in brand and merchandise. I was an account manager and we produced the t-shirts, hats, and accessories for streetwear brands. Some of you may know Supreme. That was one of our biggest clients, and they were huge during that era.
Yeah, they were.
And so that I learned a ton about the merchandising side. I thought it was really cool. We did some promotional product type of things as well, but focused mainly on the retail. And then from there, I transitioned to a fashion manufacturer. So I worked in the garment industry and I was the executive assistant to the CEO. So with that, I kind of had my hands in all different aspects of the business besides finance, of course, but I worked with the sales side. I worked with the design side. I was client facing with our retailers. We basically had our factories overseas and we produced the clothing for those brands. So I learned a lot there. And then that brings me to COVID, where everything changed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, you had a big shift when COVID happened. Obviously, I know that that was when you decided to transition and leave New York City. So, if you want to tell our audience, like, what was the big decision that you had to make to leave New York? Why? And essentially, like, what led you to the Hamptons? Because that's where you are now.
Yeah. So I never wanted to leave New York City. I could cry even thinking about it right now. But it was during a time that was, that feeling of when somebody you're close to passes away and you weren't ready for them to pass away. It was like that feeling of the city died and I was never going to see it again. And I wasn't ready for that. So COVID happened and I was working in the fashion industry and I lost my job like the majority of the world. And that was already traumatizing because I was like, oh my God, I'm paying all of this money in rent. I'm living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I don't know what is going on even in the world right now with COVID. What does this mean? Like, I had so many questions kind of looming over me, and I didn't have any answers to them. And so it got to a point where I lost my job and I was looking for other jobs, but of course, nobody was hiring. And we all thought it was going to last a week, 2 weeks, like max a month. We didn't think it was going to end up lasting years. So it got to a point where everyone just left the city and kind of went to where they're from or went to their second homes or wherever it was. A ton of people came out here to the Hamptons, people who had homes or they just like rented properties to get out of the city. So I made the decision. I still had my apartment at the time, but I left and I actually left in May. I think COVID happened in February of 2020. I stayed until May and it was my mom's birthday. And I just remember booking, it was like that morning, I booked like the earliest flight to Massachusetts to surprise my mom for her birthday. And my plan was to actually go back to the city because I still had my apartment. And I ended up there for 9 months.
Oh, wow.
And I never went back to the city. I did periodically just to kind of like pick up things because obviously my plan wasn't to stay in Massachusetts as long as I did.
Rent while you were at your parents' house in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because again, like I had no idea. I was just like, okay, I'm going to go back to the city. I'm going to go back to the city. And then when it got to the point where I still was unemployed by September, and that's when my lease was up, I knew I was like, I have no job. I don't know how I'm even going to afford this. And when I was living in the city, I was in my younger 20s. I was living paycheck to paycheck, like everybody in their younger 20s are in Manhattan. There's no saving happening in that city, especially at that age. So I just knew there was no going back. And so I had to let go of the apartment, and that was devastating. And it was funny. Like, I remember I met somebody my senior year of college, and I was a Heineken girl at the time. I didn't break into that story too much, but I was a Heineken girl, and I was giving out free Heinekens in Newport, Rhode Island. And I met this guy who happened to be, at the time, he was working in finance in New York City. And I just remember having that conversation with him, being like, oh, I'm dying to get to New York City. I'm dying to get to New York City. Like, I'm going to be in New York City. And I ended up getting the job before I even graduated from college. And so all through like my years of being in the city, I stayed in touch with him. We would get together for happy hours. And he was someone that like truly believed in me. And we still stay in touch till this day. And he has a special place in my heart. But I just remember getting together right before I let go of my apartment. And I like had to tell him, I was like, oh, I'm leaving the city. And I just remember I was just like crying at the table. Like I was just crying. And it was just such like an emotional time in my life. And I just didn't know what was going to be next for me. So when I was in Massachusetts, I was probably there for about 9 months to a year. And I just decided, that was like the time when tie-dye was such a big thing. So I started a little tie-dye business and just started selling sweatshirts and sweatpants and matching sets because I had that experience from working in the merchandising world. I kind of channeled it into starting my own little creative project while I was trying to figure out my next direction. And shout out to the people who are listening to this who bought my sweatshirts and sweatpants. Like, you guys are the best, and you got me through during that time. But it kind of just kept me going. And then from there, I wanted to actually create a real brand. And at this point, I couldn't get a job and just trying to figure things out. So that's when I started working with a company to produce an actual brand. It was called hashtag for the weekend. It was essentially like during that time, it was the sweatshirt and the biker short sets. Obviously, it was COVID, so nobody was really dressing up, but I wanted to create sets that would make women feel comfortable and also stylish during a time there was so much uncertainty. We're simple, but I did custom colors. They were custom fit. And then on the left chest, it had hashtag for the weekend, the brand underneath, and same thing on the biker shorts. I had tote bags, I had hats, I kind of did it all. And I had a Shopify, really like made it into a brand and it did well. And then that's when I realized I wanted to kind of get into real estate and
Okay.
see what that would be all
Back a little
about.
bit though. What like inspired that out of nowhere?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So my parents have owned their own property management company for well over 30 years before I was even born, probably 2 years before I was born. And so I kind of grew up in that world. My mom, I think, had her license at one point in time. I don't think she ever practiced, but she had it. And so just growing up with them, being hard workers, like I grew up in like a normal family. We didn't grow up with a ton of money, but we were well off enough. And just seeing them day in and day out work together as a team, it was inspiring. And I kind of got to learn some of the lingo and what kind of goes into real estate, at least on the property management side. I would help them in their office when I was younger, file papers and, do that type of stuff. But then I had family members outside of my immediate family get into real estate. I have family in the Boston area and Massachusetts who are agents now that they got into it later on in life. So that kind of inspired me. And I always loved the flexibility, even though, we are working all the time and more than my 9 to 5. There is still some work-life balance there. And I liked that. And after working in the fashion industry where it was so cutthroat but cutthroat in a different way, like real estate can be as well, but it was cutthroat in a different way. I just knew I wanted to do something for myself and not work for somebody again. And my sister, who is, I think she's 2 years younger than me at this point. Yeah, 2 years younger, 2.5. She started her own company. She's an esthetician. She has her own spa and whatnot in New Hampshire. So she's also an entrepreneur, and watching her kind of grow that business and learn the ins and outs. And it just even more so kind of made me realize like that was the path I was meant to take. And so that's when I decided to get into real estate, but I was still in Massachusetts. And I was like, no, I am going to be back in New York. I don't know how, but I am. And I'm going to get my real estate license for New York. Like I had so many family members convincing me why don't you try Boston? And I never gave Boston the time of day. Not because I don't love it, but even with college, I had so many friends go to Boston right out of high school to go to college, and I didn't. I think I just always had my mind set on New York City. And so even though Boston is so cute and I love it, I just couldn't see myself there, especially with what I was doing in the fashion world. So, yeah, that's kind of what made me get into it. And then I was just determined. I was like, I'm going to be back to New York. I'm going to be back to New York. And then life brought me to the Hamptons and Long Island. And my plan was to go back to New York City. And then I kind of got into real estate in Long Island. And then that was it. And I never kind of went back. I mean, I go back enough now for work, but I thought I was going to be back for good. But I made it to New York, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, now you're in enough proximity where you can go into the city whenever you want, but you're not
Yeah,
living there. So
right.
interesting. So
Yeah.
did you immediately find the brokerage that you're working for now, or like is that where you started in your real estate career, or did it take some time to get there?
So before I fully became an agent, I tried working for a company called, at the time, it's no longer a thing, but it was a tech startup called Doorkey, Doorkee. And it was a company based in the city, and I was doing it remote because it was during COVID. And so it didn't last long because it ended up going under, but the whole point of it, it was in real estate, but it was rentals in New York City. And we essentially had door runners. So I never had to actually do the showings. I could just, set up a door runner to go open the door. And then if the potential tenant was interested, they would reach out to me and I would handle the lease and whatnot. So it was very different, but it was kind of my segue into becoming an agent. And
Wait,
so,
that's crazy that thing even existed.
yeah,
Never heard of anything like that.
yeah. And how the model worked was basically if there was a current tenant already in the apartment, obviously their lease was coming up soon or whatnot, and they were willing to show their apartment to, say, my tenant who was potentially interested, and I signed the lease, that current tenant who lives in the apartment would get 33% of their first month's rent back to them.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting model. Could also be why it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
But then that's when I was like, okay, that's it. Like I have to just dive into it because I was obviously nervous. I went from getting a consistent paycheck to now, like,
For
who
sure.
knows when I'm going to get paid. So I was
Did you
just,
know how to do leases or anything? Like, was someone like there to like help you at this type of company?
yeah. So
Okay.
it was just a company that everybody was remote for the most part because it
Okay.
was the tail end of COVID. And I was like, let me see what this is all about before I jump into real estate full time. And then when that went under, I was like, okay, this is just my calling. Like this is the universe telling me that I need to just become an agent. So yes, then out here in the Hamptons, I interviewed with almost all the brokerages. And some brokerages said, I needed to be on a team in order to work there because obviously at that point I had very little experience. And others just I felt were just too old school for me. And coming from like, the fashion tech, New York City, I felt like I was on a different level. And so that's when Serhant was just opening their Watermill office. And I was like, you know what? Let me just reach out. Let me just reach out. So I emailed them, and Ryan got my email and was like, hey, Kelsey, so great to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to connect you with Scott. So then I ended up setting up a time with Scott, and we were at the office. And based on everything we talked about, like I loved everything that he was saying, and he loved everything, like the world that I kind of came from. And so I was like, okay, I think this is just meant to be. But it was also very difficult because at that time, obviously, they were a brand new company. We were just opening the office. I didn't know anybody who was even working in the office. Like, I remember trying to stop by one day and nobody was there. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And so how I kind of got my foot in the door was I went on Out East, which is one of our listing platforms, looked up open houses for that day, and I noticed that Serhant had an open house. So I drove to the open house, saw the sign, and basically like walked in and I was like, hey, I'm new to the company and I'm a brand new agent. And he happened to have a very small team. It was him and one other guy. But he was like, okay, I'll take you on. And so I was like, okay, great. And so that's kind of how I kind of started. With the team, it didn't really last long because it just wasn't a good fit. And I had to kind of separate myself from that in order to grow. But it was very new. I mean, it was after probably 4.5 months after I met him and when I first started, when I kind of separated myself. And then I went out on my own, and there were changes happening within my office too. So it was a very scary time for a new agent and not knowing really the market. And I really had to figure it out on my own. So he taught me some stuff too. I will give him that credit. And he did help me on my first deal I did. But besides that, that was it. And the Hamptons there's so many different aspects to it. It's so nuanced that it's a hard market to learn. And so I ended up going out on my own. And that year, when I was on my own, I had a phenomenal year. And I think it was just because I had to learn it on my own and I really had to force myself to do it. And that's the thing about real estate. Like, you really need to have the drive and you really need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. I was somebody who obviously was very nervous and wanted to like live in the bubble of comfort. But as soon as I got out here, I didn't know a single soul. I didn't know what the real estate world was even about. Like, it was really up to myself to really figure it out and build a name for myself. And I think that's where I've received the respect that I've gotten from my company and even like locals around here too, because I kind of like put my head down and was just like, all right, we're gonna fucking do this.
And that's the biggest risk with being an entrepreneur. It like that is the risk. Like, you're leaving comfort to go into something that like you're excited about and really want to do, but it's super hard to master and like really hard to actually like get your feet off the ground. But well, I wouldn't say everyone succeeds with entrepreneurship, but if you do put your head down and you really, really work your ass off, like you'll get there and you're exactly what that is.
Yeah, it was a very rewarding year. I will say that. And that is the thing about real estate, as you guys know. You have your good years, you have your not so good years, but you really need to put it all in. Like, you just got to do it. And when you do have a good year, it's incredibly rewarding. Even when you don't have a good year, I will say it is rewarding in a different sense because yes, you're a little bit down on yourself. You're like, why wasn't a good year? But it's not so much about you. It could be the market. It could just be like where your pipeline is. And there's so many factors that go into it, but you learn from everything. And I think that there's something to learn from all aspects of this business.
Definitely. Now, are you still a solo agent? Aren't you on a team right now?
I am. So I had an agent that was in my office. Well, he's still in my office, but we started collaborating on some things, on some listings, and he was a solo agent at the time. And so I was like, you know what? Let's collaborate. I wasn't ready to rejoin a team because I was kind of traumatized, to be completely honest. And just with the trajectory of where my business was going, I was good on my own. So I decided to collaborate with him on a few listings. And then he started his own team and he wanted me to join. And it was during the time, it was probably the beginning of this year when most of my deals kind of already were sold and finished and I was trying to rebuild my pipeline. And so I was like, you know what, let's do it. Let's work together. And so I've been with him now ever since probably the new year.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like, well, how many years have you been in real estate at this point?
I've never really told this to anybody, but I think it's been 3 years, three
Wait,
and a
that's
half.
actually crazy because, well, obviously it doesn't seem like that. So that's a good thing. And then, I mean, you definitely have accomplished so much, but it's interesting because then we met at the very beginning of your real estate career because we met 3 years ago, like all of us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting. But I mean, around that time when we all started with Powerhouse Women and, you know, learning from each other, that definitely played a huge role in all of our businesses doing much better and like learning from each other. I feel like I was missing that key component in my business for, I guess at that point, I was in real estate like 6-ish years. And I was like missing that key component with like having a group of like-minded people like help you in a different way than you're getting from like your brokerage. And I'm sure that obviously played a huge role in making you have the best year you had once you left that team.
100%. Like I give so much credit to Powerhouse Women because yes, you have this. I have so much support within Serhant. I have so much support outside of Serhant. But like at the end of the day, you know, there's only so much the people within your market are willing to share with you, as you guys know. It's funny when I ask like other agents around this area, I'm like, oh, how's business? Everybody's like, oh, business is fantastic. Meanwhile, let's be honest, it's not the best year for real estate. But, when I started with Powerhouse Women, when we formed that, we can all just be like open and honest with each other and like just talk about our struggles and learn from each other. And that is huge. The collaboration is huge. And that kind of goes back to why I chose Serhan is because of that collaboration factor. I do so much business with our agents really everywhere, but primarily our city agents because it's the same clientele. And if it wasn't for that collaboration factor, I don't want to say I probably wouldn't be with them, but it makes all the difference.
It really
And so
does.
I feel that same way about Powerhouse Women too. Like the collaboration, like that's how people are getting deals done these days. You have to collaborate, you have to work together, and you just got to get it done.
I agree completely, like in any industry, but I've worked at different brokerages from where I am now. Now I'm at EXP, and like they're also very big with collaborating. And I wouldn't necessarily have stayed well, I actually went back to EXP, but I wouldn't probably have gone back if I knew that that factor wasn't in there because we started Powerhouse Women before I went back to EXP. And that was such a big component in my business. And it wasn't like, I feel like collaboration wasn't a huge thing for a really long time in this industry. Honestly, most industries.
It's a very antiquated industry, and there's a lot of older people in the industry, and they're very gatekeepy and stuck in their ways, and they don't like to share. They do not like to share, and you get so much farther by sharing.
You really do.
A lot in my market because Boston is very old money, and like it's a very controlled, like a lot of the real estate is controlled by like a very small group of old, antiquated individuals, and there's like a very smaller, much smaller group of old agents that work in those real estate fields, and they're very nice to me, and like I have earned their respect and like friendship in some instances, but I've seen it. It's like, ew, how do you live like that and like sleep at night with
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I'm sure
Yeah.
that's probably super similar to that type of setting in real estate.
Yeah, Hamptons is very old school and old money too. But, you know, when I first came here, like Hamptons agents cannot stand city agents. And now that I'm a Hamptons agent, I can understand why. But I was viewed as a city agent, and there's been stories like literally, it's never happened to me, so I can't, but there's been stories that I've heard where, Hamptons agents won't open the door for a city agent to show it, or like, so that was something I always had to kind of battle too. And that kind of goes into curated and all the things. But yeah, I was kind of viewed as, especially because we also are a city-based brokerage, like our headquarters are Manhattan. So it was like, I'm coming from Manhattan during COVID and staying. Then I work for a Manhattan-based brokerage. And then I'm coming from the fashion world, and these, agents are like, who is this girl? And so I've really had to like, feel really nice and really show like my professionalism and honestly prove my worth to them and obviously like my clients too, but mainly just the agents in the area. Like I really had to prove my worth to show like, okay, I am here full time and this is my profession.
I think that that's kind of just like an unspoken rule though in just business. Like you kind of do have to prove your worth. You have to prove you're knowledgeable and all of those things. You have to do it to your clients every day. So what makes it any different to have to do it to your peers is realistically the same thing. But I'm
Mhm.
super curious about like obviously you when you went to the Hamptons, you knew absolutely no one. Like what was that like experience like for you, like building a business from absolutely nothing?
Oh my God. It was incredibly lonely. Yeah, it was humbling to say the least. I really leaned on social media, honestly, to try to make a name for myself and would just post, even if I had really nothing to post, like I would just find something to post. And I also really prioritized happy hour. And that is something that I still do to this day is going to happy hour, sitting at the bar and talking to people. When I didn't know a single soul, it wasn't necessarily, I wasn't doing it necessarily for the business aspect at first. It was just to sit at the bar and like try to make some friends. And so now it's funny because I joke with my parents. I'm like, well, because I sat at this certain bar for, twice a week for, however long I did, now all of my friends are like your age that are like 50 and 60 years old.
That's a crowd to
Um,
be with, though, doing
I,
real estate in the Hamptons.
I know. So, and that's the thing, the Hamptons is also, especially where I'm in West Hampton, and it's very like local. There's a lot, like the young people who live here, they grew up here. And so they already have their group of friends and whatnot. And not that it's like overly clicky, but once you get to our age, it's hard to make friends, especially somewhere so new and you're trying to fit into a group that has been friends since probably high school, middle school, honestly. So it was just really hard. And I tried with certain people and it just didn't work. I always felt like I was just different. And I think because I obviously have that city background and a lot of the people who are here locals like have never left. And that's similar to like my hometown too, right? We all have that. So I understand. But yeah, I had a really hard time feeling like I had a place here and fitting in. And that's why I just kind of did what I did best and what I was used to from the city is just going and sitting at a bar and just talking to people. And that's kind of how I learned to meet people. And like I said, a lot of my friends now are older, and I do have some now that are my age, but it took time to get there and I'm still working on it. But it turned into like business. Now everybody knows I'm in real estate, but it's just tough because everybody out here is in real estate. So you're just constantly trying to like, stay top of mind.
So weird.
It's so different. I always felt though, like growing up, that I was kind of the black sheep of my family and whatnot. Like I just chose such a different path in life, like leaving my hometown and doing all of these different things that, it wasn't a complete foreign thing when I came here to the Hamptons to like kind of feel out of place, but anything like that is a bit uncomfortable. And so it took some time for sure. And now I'm in a different place, but it's always a work in progress, especially when you're not from here. And people will ask me, oh, you remember this? And I'm like, was that like before I was born? Like yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm still learning that has to do with the Hamptons from when I was born.
Okay, pivoting a little bit, but kind of going back to you touched on it a little bit at the beginning. You started a brand, Curated, and you tied everything, all of your business endeavors into one. Explain what like inspired the name and what Curated is.
So I haven't really dived into my personal styling business yet, but basically what Curated is it's my personal styling business and my real estate business combined. And for the longest time, I had a very difficult time meshing the two. And I think, I don't know if it's just a real estate thing, but I feel like real estate agents feel like they can only focus on real estate 24/7 or their clients won't trust them. If they're posting about other things, it's like, oh no, like their focus isn't on real estate and they're focusing on other things. And for the longest time, I was like, okay, I need to separate the two. Like, well, I need to make it look like real estate is my world 24/7, which it is. It is my primary business. That is what I focus on 90% of the time. But I still had that aspect of fashion that made me happy. And it was the creativity and something that I realized just will never leave me. And so when I got into personal styling, I just kept trying. Like I was like, how do I mesh the two? And I was like, oh my God, no. Like people are going to be like, why am I posting this fashion reel when I'm a real estate agent? And then I kind of got to the point where I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Like I can be both. I can be the personal stylist, I can be the co-founder, and I can be a real estate agent and thrive in all three. And I've found that, some of my clientele has overlapped where I've helped them with some real estate advice or helping them find a home, but then I've also helped them with their closets. So that's really why I started Curated because I just felt like I needed more of a purpose and a purpose that kind of meshed the two together. The name kind of came about because I'm curating homes for my real estate clients and an experience, right? I'm curating an experience. And then I'm also the same thing for my styling clients. I'm curating looks for them and also the experience. So that's kind of how I came up with Curated with a K because obviously my name starts with a K. And then where luxury is personal is, that's kind of like my tagline is I just truly feel like luxury is not a price point at all. It's more about like how it makes you feel, whether that's the home, whether that's the clothing that you're wearing every day and getting dressed. For me, getting dressed in the morning every day is what makes me so happy, like more than anything else. Because like I said earlier on this call, it's truly how I express myself. And so, if I can help other women feel confident in how they show up every day, then, my life is, I'm happy. And also with real estate too, if I can help somebody find their dream home or like sell their home and purchase another one, like my life is made.
Absolutely. And I can relate to that too. Kelsey and I are both real estate agents and personal stylists. And I think that there really is like a really good correlation between the two. Like you said, like even if you're working with a client, or let's say you're not working with someone in real estate, but like they're interested in your styling services. Like I have people in the real estate industry that reach out and they're interested in styling services. So it's interesting. I feel like you can kind of integrate it all into one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're similar. You do a lot of virtual styling calls. I do as well. And so it's funny. I worked with somebody from, where was she located? I think she was in Nicaragua. I think somewhere over there. And I helped her with styling. And then as we got to know each other, she was talking about how she loves to come to the Hamptons and that she used to live in New York City and then life brought her there. And they would potentially be reaching out to me in the near future when they do want to come and purchase a house in the Hamptons. So you really never know who you're going to meet. There is a lot of overlap. And also another reason why I do the styling, not only does it make me incredibly happy, but also because of business opportunities like this, you never know who you're going to meet. When I took that call, did I think she was ever going to have any association with the Hamptons? No. And so now she's part of my database and I'm able to follow up with her and like just kind of stay in touch and form that relationship. That's why I think don't put all of your eggs in one basket. And I think a lot of realtors do. You never know what life is going to bring you, right? And so keep
Every
your options
networking event.
open.
Like
Everything is
everything,
networking. Yes.
always be networking, like no matter what you're, and I think that we're all very similar in that aspect. Like wherever we go, whatever we're doing, we're always talking about our businesses to some extent, throwing that in there. And people also bring it up to us. And if the conversation always comes up, people will always know when we walk into a room, oh, like she's a real estate agent. Oh, she's also a personal stylist. Like those things. So that's what you got to do. You have to tell everybody about all of your endeavors, and that's how you network.
It gives
Yeah.
them other reasons to follow along with you and like be invested in your journey. I think an underrated networking hack is networking in spaces where it's like a hobby or it's something that you're interested in versus like going to a networking event where it's like, hi, I'm Gia, I'm a realtor. What do
Yeah.
you do? Like, honest to God, like, fuck that. I hate that kind of networking.
Same.
I want to like walk in a charity runway show and like meet people that are also like models or like interested in the fashion space for whatever reason. And it's just so much more natural.
I agree because you're talking to people that you can like relate to or you're interested in meeting or any of those things, like people that you have like a genuine connection with to some extent. That's what I
Yeah.
go out a lot and I'm networking with people that I meet out all the time and like they're strangers, but out like socializing, having fun, dancing, whatever. And that's like my thing. And I have so much more fun doing that than going to a networking event, wearing a name tag. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. I'm the same exact way. I mean, Marley, you and I and Sarah and Montauk explains that
That was a
completely
story.
because we were out and about networking, but yet having fun and having a few drinks. And like, that's how we organically build business. Like, that's what makes us happy. I think also, like, going back to the styling aspect of it is like, I take a lot of pride in how I present myself. And I think that plays a role in my real estate business too, because when I walk into a restaurant or doesn't matter where it is, like I'm constantly having somebody be like, "Oh my God, I love your outfit." And then it starts a conversation. And
Always.
so if I showed up in, jeans and sneakers, and granted, I love my jeans and sneakers, and there are certain days when I will wear that, but if I'm working from home one day and like I'm putting myself together as if I looked like I was out and then I go. Like I don't show up in, a basic outfit.
No.
Because I think it all plays a role in the business aspect. So I
Look good,
do,
you feel good. That's always
yeah,
my motto.
yeah, I agree. I think that it's so important. That's always like one of my biggest pieces of advice. Like presentation is everything. And you like it's the first impression. When you walk in a door, you could know nobody, but they're staring at you and you're walking business card, basically.
I'm curious, since you're both personal stylists, what your take is on the concept of dressing for the job you want and not the job you have. If you've ever heard that like statement
I
before.
have. I agree with that for sure. If you think into it a little bit deeper, you could see like for real estate, for example, I'll walk into an office and people are wearing all different types of things, but like I definitely have always from the moment I got into this business have dressed the part of being like a professional put together real estate agent. And I feel like I think all three of us can probably relate to that. Like we're gonna get dressed up for a showing. We're not gonna show up looking slumpy in like jeans and a t-shirt, you know? But I also feel like it's super important to dress for like who you are, not just the job. Like, yeah, you could put on a suit, anyone could put on a suit and look put together, but like, I think it's super important to make it your own and style it in your own niche way. Like, one person might be super edgy, one person might be super clean, chic, you know? Like, I think that that is the most important aspect rather than just like dressing the part, you know?
I agree completely. You took the words out of my mouth. I think, yeah, dressing the part is very important, but I always say to my styling clients, like, you have to dress for who you are. Like, don't dress because it's like the new trendy look. Like, if that's not your style, that's not your style, and don't try to fit yourself into that box. stay true to who you are. And when you feel confident in what you're wearing and it feels true to you, you're able to show up as your true self to the world, whether that's like in a professional setting or a personal setting, wherever you are, you just feel your most confident when you are true to who you are. So I agree. Obviously, you need to dress the part for the job, depending on what job you are in. But it's really important to stay true to you and your personal style.
Definitely. All right, so we're wrapping up here, but we always do the hot takes. I have one prepared for the first time. I actually made a TikTok about this. So if you saw it, the 10 people that saw it. I hate with a capital H when people tell jokes. I don't think jokes are funny. I don't understand. Like,
I agree.
if you're gonna, like, if you think you're funny and you're telling me a joke, automatically not funny in my book. Like, I think that people that are funny are just naturally funny. They're like,
Unironically. Yeah.
there's like comedic timing. There's just the way people tell stories that can be funny. Like mannerisms are super funny. But if you're telling me a dad joke, I'm immediately unimpressed. And I'm like, ew.
No,
And a lot of men do that.
there's a man that comes into the coffee shop that I work at, and he is constantly just rattling off jokes. And the other day, finally, I was like, "What are you, the fucking court jester?"
I love that.
Like, and I said it just like that. Like, I'm like just
Shut up.
lighthearted, but also like, shut up. Like,
You're not funny. You're actually making me uncomfortable.
they're mean, like making mean jokes about like overweight people. And I'm like, who let this grandpa out of his house? Go home. Like,
I
go
feel bad
home.
for the old men though. Like they're so used to those ways, and like that's like their personality at this point. But so I let the old people slide. I'll let my grandpa, my mom's father that passed away, he was like that, like telling jokes, like those dry jokes. And I was like, oh my God. I would actually be like sitting there, like, sorry, grandpa, rest in peace. But he would like tell me a joke and I'd be sitting there waiting for the punchline. Like, wait, when am I supposed to laugh? Like, I'm waiting for the time I'm supposed to laugh. And it was never funny. So
Then he'd have to explain it, and it's immediately
and I
not
was like, oh my God. So yeah.
That's cute as your grandpa.
Yeah, but as like a 30, 40-year-old man, like let's not do that.
Yeah, no.
And women don't do that either. Like I think being funny and like being a comedian of any sort, it's not telling jokes. It's like having bits and like a shtick, you know? It's not the joke telling. So that's just my hot take for the week.
I love it.
Love that one. Mine is similar kind of to what we were just talking about, actually. I think that fashion trends, not like content trends, but even content trends in general are just for people that don't have their own sense of style, their own sense of self, their own self like awareness of their brand, like whatever you're talking about. It can be applied to content or style, but like if you're relying heavily on trends, you don't know who you are, babe.
I agree. I hate
I
trends.
agree.
I'm so over it. I used to fall heavy into them too because I used to just get like really excited about it. Like I feel like I was more so like this when I was like in college, post grad time period. Now I'm like so over it. It's exhausting, like keeping up with it. Like I want to have a piece in my closet that I buy now and I'm still wearing when I'm 60 years old. Like it's just like
I mean,
there's
you
no point.
could with trends because they all come back around. Like, give them 10, 20, 30 years, it'll come back around. And, like, like I think about like the jelly flats. Okay. Like, that is core, like millennial nostalgia because that's
True.
what our parents put us in when we were like 4. So, like, of course, there's going to be an adult version when we all hit the ripe age of being the predominant shopper. It's just like nobody has an original thought. Is all I'm saying. Like develop
No,
your
I agree.
I love scrolling, especially like in the fall or like the springtime season changes when trends are like really heavy because it's like we're all shopping for the next season or whatever. I love scrolling and seeing somebody in like a unique, like it's not like the jacket that everybody bought. It's not like the shoes it's like, wow, you're your own, like you're so much more cooler. It's like automatic aura points.
I
Yes.
agree. I do think it's like not everyone has it. Like not everyone just like
Yeah.
has that. But I will say one way, like a tip for all of you people out there that don't know what the hell you're doing, shop vintage. Like I think that
Mhm.
shopping like really good quality vintage. Like I'm not talking like thrifting, although I think thrifting is good in itself too. Vintage pieces, good quality vintage pieces, that will last you a lifetime. That will be unique. No one else will have that in your closet. And I feel like it's okay to maybe have like more of like a basic silhouette and then like throw a unique vintage piece in with it and then it's different. You're not going to find somebody else with that.
Totally love that advice.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Once you know your personal style, like for me, I feel like I've nailed it at this point. Of course, I branch out here and there, but if I'm going to fall into any trends, it's something that I'm going to invest in that I know I'll wear like next season and the season after that. Like a trend that I know will be back every year because some trends do. I feel like all the fall trends right now are all the fall trends that were last year. So, certain fall, you have to know the right ones to invest in. And obviously, but I think it depends.
Yeah, that's a good hot take though, because like people out here don't know what they're doing.
No, that's why they hire us.
Yeah. Tell us what's your
So
hot take.
yeah, my hot take, and I'm probably gonna get seriously canceled for this one, is I am not a Swiftie and I will never be a Swiftie.
I'm not gonna lie. And then I
I
was
do
gonna
not like.
say it.
Wait, what'd you say, G?
That was almost my hot take, and I backspace. I was like, I don't know if I can say it because
Wait,
this.
people are like not gonna listen to this podcast in like 5 seconds because I'm not just a not a Swiftie. I'm a Taylor Swift hater. So don't come for me because I'm already pre-canceling myself by saying that.
Honestly, you
It
took
was
the words out of my mouth.
I was listening to some of the songs like just through like content, and I'm just like, what is this? This
Wasn't
is
one of her lines like "girl boss so hard," something like "too close to the sun" or something like "shut up"?
you were stigmatized.
Yeah,
We
that's
threw
like the best hot take ever because all three of us aren't Swifties, but it's actually so funny because a lot of my friends are like we're like split. Like I have like a
really
good amount of friends that hate Taylor Swift, and then I have friends that love her so much like they'll literally like stab you in the throat with a knife.
oh my God.
And one of my best
Scared.
friends, I love her so much. I was talking shit about Taylor Swift, and she goes, "I have to remove myself from this room if you're going to talk shit about Taylor Swift." And she literally got up and left.
I cannot.
That
See,
has
I
like the
can't.
same energy of a Disney adult, like equally terrifying, truthfully. Equally
Yeah.
terrifying. Stay away from me.
Now let me ask, because I feel like the answer is going to be yes. Did you both grow up listening to like Drake, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj?
Yes.
That's why we
Well,
hate Taylor Swift, because like that was like our shit.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do you explain the 50-year-olds that are obsessed with Taylor Swift and go to all of her concerts and wear sparkles and
They didn't
cowboy
have a
boots?
childhood.
Yeah, I don't know. They were stripped of something when they were kids. I don't know,
They're
but
trying to fill
That,
some sort of inner child void for sure.
I don't like
yeah.
really girly pop music in general, though. So I feel like if there was any other artist that might be like somewhat similar to her voice and like that type of vibe, it's just not me. Like I'm not like fairy, like girly like that.
Okay, but I will say, as much as I was raised on rap and hip hop, I also am very obsessed with Lana Del Rey, Marina and the Diamonds, like
So I'm not. So I
1995.
feel like I
I'm
stay
not
in that
either.
category.
Pink
Yeah.
Pony, Pink Pony Club will have me dancing on a table. I don't know what's in
No,
that.
the song's good, but like it's a
Ugh.
bop, you know? Like I'm not gonna
Ugh.
listen to
Sure.
like I'm not
It's
gonna
like
listen.
it's like the modern day like wedding song. Like you'll hear it for forever now at weddings, just like the Cupid Shuffle. Like it'll be like because everybody knows it.
Well, that's not
Choose
Lana Del
that
Rey, that's
Taylor
Shuffle.
Swift song any day.
Honestly,
I
no,
agree.
no one will ever compare to the Spice Girls. I'm sorry. I grew up on the Spice Girls. They were the absolute shit. And
They
so
were.
I not like just no, nobody will compare. That's how I feel.
I was like a Miley girl growing up.
Yes.
So I feel like if you were like seriously a Miley girl, I feel like by default you don't like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Miley is like seriously talented, has an insane voice, like the range in her voice, crazy. Like you can't compete with that as Taylor Swift. Yeah, Taylor Swift might be an amazing lyricist, but like, or whatever you call it, but like, I don't really care about lyrics. I care about like the vibe of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank God this was at the end of this podcast and not in the beginning.
Yeah. People maybe, if you got this far,
And you're one of them.
probably hate us now. Well, Kelsey, this has been amazing. Where can everyone connect with you?
So you can connect with me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. It's Kelsey Lynn O'Connor. And yeah, I guess if you want to email me for any like real estate needs, it's kelsey.o'connor@serhant.com. And for styling needs, it's kelseylynnoconnor@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for chatting with us today. It was exciting having you as a guest.
I loved being here and I can't wait for the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of At the Table with Power Haus Women. Thanks for tuning in. If you loved today's conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Your support helps us keep pulling up more seats at the table.
Want to keep the conversation going? Join the movement at powerhousewomen.com/society.
And connect with us on Instagram at Power Haus Women.
Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and remember, there's always room at the table for you.